What's up, everyone? Welcome into the All 22 NFL show, the official channel of the All 22 fantasy football platform. It's the only fantasy football game with full 53-man rosters, including offensive linemen, where you get to choose personnel packages and have access to PFF grading and advanced stats to make decisions each week. To learn more and sign up, go to all-22.com. Ray, this is the happiest I'm going to sound on this podcast. It was an awful weekend. I am severely depressed. And as always, I'm going to ask, how are you?
There's a lot to be thankful for, Chris. Just chin up. However, I will say I'm feeling pretty good because there's a lot going on today, and I just remember like 2 minutes before this podcast started, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I was right, and Chris, his boy Trey Young, was traded for absolute peanuts. So this isn't even about fun. This is now an NBA podcast. This is an NBA podcast now.
Dude, you can shut up about Trey Young at any time.
Tried to tell
Listen,
you that
Luka got traded for peanuts. Is he nothing? Is he worthless?
No, Anthony Davis is a big peanut.
Anthony Davis is not even playing basketball at the moment.
Yeah, but he's still big. He's a big peanut.
That's fair. Physically, he is a large human being. All right, that's fair. I'll give that.
That was also rigged. That was also the NBA. We're not going to do this. We're not going to.
Definitely not doing that. But I thought you were going to say you were right because Dallas now has a better draft pick because Green Bay lost, and that makes you happy because you're a scumbag.
I didn't say any of that. You assigned something negative to me, and then acted upon that when I never said that. All right.
I assigned it to you. Tell me your wife's a therapist without telling me your wife's a therapist. All right. I assigned it to you. Oh my gosh. Who are you rooting for at the moment? NFC or AFC? Let's talk about it for a second.
I root for good football, and we had great football with the exception of the Los Angeles Chargers. Thank you, Jim Harbaugh.
But listen. Talk about the Chargers for a second, though. Like, aren't you happy and excited that next year, like, I don't think the Chargers realistically thought that they were going to win it this year, right? Like, for them, they still made the playoffs without either starting tackle. I don't know. I think you feel way better about next year than you do this year anyway. So,
I mean, they're probably not feeling that way about their offensive coordinator regardless about the offensive line state. But, yeah, sure. Something to build off of. That's great. What is Justin Herbert now? Year 7 we're going into. So, yeah, keep saying that.
So who are you rooting for? AFC, NFC?
I don't know, dude. I wanted to see the Jaguars go pretty far. All right, that didn't happen. The Bears are fun to watch. They're very exciting. So I'm rooting for the Bears to go as far as possible. So they make. You asked. I didn't want to answer this question. You have to admit that they play exciting football games. They get you down. It's always the game at the end. It's fantastic football to watch. It is incredibly fun. So, yeah, the Bears. I also am like, I have nothing against the Bills. The Bills fans are incredible. But if I'm going to see Josh Allen like pull it off, I want to see him pull it off in a playoff bracket that includes Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Like, if he does it, like, I mean, if you're a Bills fan, you don't care. I get it. But from a neutral observer, I'd like to see him do it and, like, actually beat Lamar and Mahomes along the way. I just think it'd be it'll be better that way. You have to actually conquer the beast, in order to be considered the best. But I root for that Texans defense. I think they're phenomenal. They're so much fun to watch. They still don't get the credit they deserve, even if everybody says they're the best defense in the league, which they are. You're still not talking about them enough. You're definitely not talking about Danielle Hunter enough. So I would like to see the Texans go as far as they can. And I think it'd be fun to see Caleb Williams try to pull some Houdini acts against the Texans defense because he would absolutely have to. And that'll just be fun to watch. It'd be good television. I'm not going to ask you. I'm sure you just, you want an asteroid at this point. So
yeah,
this has been
I actually don't know if I like football anymore, to be honest. This might be my last podcast. We'll see.
Fantastic.
Dude, the Jags, I agree with you. I think everybody was kind of secretly like, this Jags team's super fun and it would be fun to see them go. But it says a lot about Josh Allen and the Bills team and, their fight to win. And like you could say that it doesn't count because they're not going against Lamar and Mahomes, but if they actually win the Super Bowl against these NFC teams, then it does say something because I do think the NFC is far superior this year than the AFC is. But we'll see. Come Super Bowl time, we'll definitely see. Bobby always talks about emotional hedging too. Like he's a big emotional hedge guy because he's a Giant fan, and he'll draft Eagles guys in fantasy just because it's kind of an emotional hedge. Either the Eagles players stink and Bobby's happy, or the Eagles players do well and Bobby wins in fantasy, right? I have Caleb Williams in just about every league I'm in now for that exact reason. It's like, one, I think Caleb Williams is awesome, and I think that his play and what his future looks like is going to be great. I'm excited for it. So Caleb is a part of a lot of the Lambeau Leap fantasy leagues, and I am happy for him. Saying that, Ben Johnson, I am very upset with that human being, and I will be very excited for next year when we pound them twice during the regular season and they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Remember when Jerry Jones didn't even interview him? That's great.
Dude, that's your boy.
On with it.
Let's get on with it. So we have a fun episode today. If you remember a few episodes back, we kind of did like a parallel universe of what we would do if we were the Browns ownership back in 2017 or 18. I don't remember what it was at this point when they made the trade for Deshaun Watson. I may have gone way too far back. I don't remember. And we went through that scenario. We're going to do the same thing today. Okay. We are standing on planet Earth. We just jumped back through the wormhole back to Earth from Brown's universe. And all of a sudden to our right, another wormhole opens and it takes us to the Jets universe. Okay. What would have happened if the Jets decided not to draft Zach Wilson at number 2 overall in the 2021 NFL draft?
Yep.
And instead, they kept Sam Darnold on their roster. So, Ray, I'm going to paint a little picture before we get into the conversation, just to remind everybody what was kind of transpiring at that time, okay? Sam Darnold had played from 2018 to 2020 with the Jets on his rookie deal before they traded him to the Panthers. In return, they got a 2021 6th-round pick, a 2022 2nd-round pick, and a 2022 4th-round pick. The 6th-round pick was then traded to the Chiefs. Do you know who the Chiefs got? Did you look that up with that 6th-round pick?
But was it Trey Smith?
It was Trey Smith. So the Jets traded that pick to move up. Damn. And they traded away the Trey Smith pick. So that's how, for those wondering, that is how the Chiefs got Trey Smith. So in this parallel universe, that may not happen. We'll see. In the 2nd round, with the 2nd-round pick they got in 2022, they drafted Breece Hall. Maybe they still would have been able to do that. We'll talk about it. And then with their 4th-round pick, they used it on Max Mitchell, who's been kind of a serviceable backup tackle, swing tackle kind of guy. So good chance they don't get him. Okay. Sam Darnold then goes to play for the Panthers from 2021 to 2022. He then leaves, right? It was a disaster. He leaves. He signs a 1-year deal for $4.5 million with the 49ers. Then after that year, he signs a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Vikings. Everybody knows how that went, right? It went extremely well. He then leaves the Vikings. They choose not to re-sign him. They go with rookie or 2nd-year player at this point, right? J.J. McCarthy. Sam Darnold then signs with the Seahawks on a 3-year, $100 million deal. He is now the 1 seed in the NFC, and we'll see what happens next week for him, okay? At the time, just to go back and look at that 2021 Jets roster. So quarterback, Sam Darnold, running back, Michael Carter. Wide receivers were Keelan Cole, Corey Davis. Tight end was Ryan Griffin. Tackles were George Font and Morgan Moses. At guard, they had Van Rotten and Elijah Vera Tucker. At center, Connor McGovern. Defensive interior, they had Fatukasi and Quinnen Williams. At edge, they had Bryce Huff and Franklin Myers. At linebacker, CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams. At cornerback, they had Breece Hall and Michael Carter. And at safety, they had Marcus May and Elijah Riley. So, Ray, the one thing I want to point out before we get too into the conversation is this is different than the Browns conversation, right? Because one of the big differences is the Browns went and spent $200+ million on Deshaun Watson. That didn't happen here, right? There isn't this huge fund of free agency money that we can go and play with. So I think our conversation is going to be heavily more kind of draft oriented.
That's fantastic. While still trying to not be Captain Hindsight here, we're going to, do our best to blend fit with opinion at the time and to see how this shakes out for the Jets. And spoiler alert, a lot better than it has. So
You think so?
How do you
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll see.
We'll see. Because I think Jets fans at home right now, like maybe this is like 5% of them, but there might be 5% of them that are like, hey, we have 5 first-round draft picks in the next 2 years. We have the best offensive line we've ever had. We like having, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. And if we just draft a quarterback in the first round this year, and then we have 4 first-round picks to build around him, that is the best situation for the Jets. Again, maybe it's 5% of people, but I think there might be people out there that feel that way.
That's who we cater to, the 5% fringe. We're just going to go on the wrong side of 80-20 from now on.
Do you know what a republic is, Ray? Do you know what a republic is?
This
isn't just a democracy. This is a republic, okay? It's not just
a podcast.
It's not just for the majority. Video. It's for everybody, Ray.
This is the NFL.
We cater to the 1% and the 5% too.
This is all 22 fantasy.
So let's get back to it, all right? So in 2021, just as a reminder, the Jets, again, traded away Sam Darnold, and they drafted Zach Wilson at number 2 overall. They then drafted Elijah Vera Tucker at 14. But for those that don't remember, in that same draft, the 49ers traded 3 first-round draft picks to trade up to number 3 overall, and they did it with the Miami Dolphins. And they did it to draft one of these quarterbacks, not knowing which one would be available, and they end up with Trey Lance. We all know how that ends up. But I think the first thing we need to kind of decide here is we need to decide, are we staying at number 2 and drafting somebody, or are we making that trade with the 49ers? So again, before you just make the decision, let's explore who is available at number 2, just to, again, remind people. So at number 2 overall, if the Jets stayed and did not draft Zach Wilson, they would have been able to choose between Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penny Sewell, J.C. Horn, Pat Surtain, Devonta Smith, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater. Okay. Those are who were available to them at 2 if they don't draft a quarterback. Okay. If they were to trade back with the 49ers, it would have taken them to number 12, which is what Miami received. Miami ended up trading that pick up to draft Jalen Waddle, but the number 12 overall pick ends up being Micah Parsons. Okay. On the board at number 12 was Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Elijah Vera Tucker, who they drafted anyway, Jalen Phillips, Kwity Paye, Christian Darrisaw. So first decision, Ray, that we need to make is, are we staying at 2, or are we trading back and getting 3 first-round draft picks?
No, we're terrible. We're getting 3 first-round draft picks. 3 first-round draft picks. We're moving back.
No interest in Penny Sewell for this team, or Jamar Chase.
I have a lot of interest in Penny Sewell for this team.
Because again, we have Sam Darnold at this point. That's not of interest.
As much as 3 first-round picks.
Okay.
Like, we're keeping Sam Darnold because we don't love these quarterbacks. Okay. Trevor was taken. Trevor was the prodigal son. He was the prodigy. He was the prototype. He's not there. We don't love it. We have a nice golden parachute here. We're going to get 3 first-round picks to build around Sam Darnold, but if it doesn't work, get another guy later in future years, but at least have something around him, which is the whole issue that we ran into with Sam Darnold the first time around, is that we had absolutely nothing supporting him, and he just got bludgeoned, which stunted his development. So we're going to give ourselves options and trade back.
Okay. So we are going to smash accept. I would do the same thing, by the way, just to clarify that. I would absolutely smash accept and take the 3 first-round draft picks. So we are at 12 now, and I feel that this is a very easy decision. Again, who's on the board at 12? It's Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Elijah Vera Tucker, Jalen Phillips, Kwity Paye, Christian Darrisaw. I think only one of those players is franchise-changing, and that's the one I would go with. But at the same time, right, if we're keeping Sam Darnold, a lot of the issues that Sam Darnold had was that he didn't really have a lot of weapons around him. Or we just okay not adding the tackle or adding the receiver, right? And going with the person I want to go with, which is Micah Parsons.
And this is where, if we were in the front office, I wouldn't have let you do anything else because you could call me biased or whatever. But at the time, there were people in the Lash building at Penn State who had said from literally the moment he stepped on campus, Micah Parsons was the best player on the team. And that the answer is Micah Parsons. It was always the answer. You have to trust your board. If he's the best player on your board, Fine, we'll take him. And I know that doesn't really help Sam Darnold, but it's Micah Parsons. Like, it's Micah Parsons. You have to take him. He literally takes any defense from league average to the worst in its franchise history if you give him away. Okay, that's what the Cowboys did. They had a league average defense. Actually, with him on the field, it was like a top 6 defense, actually, per EPA standards. They traded him away. Still got like good players like Quinnen Williams, later on and such, and literally were the worst defense in franchise history, gave up the most points of any Cowboy season ever. And if you think back to some of the dreadful days they had before the 90s dynasties, yeah, this defense was worse than all of them. So he is that impactful for the team that you cannot cheat your board and say, well, we need to get a receiver or we need to get a tackle here. We have options. That's why we got all of these picks. So we're going to take the franchise player, the only remaining franchise player on the board in Micah Parsons.
Okay. So we take Micah Parsons at 12. And I agree with everything you said. I think he's a difference maker. I do have concerns, right? Because with this entire conversation, we have to make the assumption that Sam Darnold develops into the player he is today, right? And it's not because he spent a year with, in Kyle Shanahan's offense and then another year in, with the Vikings. And those are the reasons maybe he developed, right? We're assuming we can do that with him ourselves. But that's, that was 5 years ago, right? Like a lot has happened in that time that helped Sam Darnold develop. I do think we need to be mindful that Sam Darnold is going to need some help at some point, and this is not a pick that helps him. Although I will say, right, the best offensive weapon may be a phenomenal defense that gives you the freaking football sometimes, right? So Micah Parsons can do that. Okay, at pick 14, I had mentioned we drafted Elijah Vera Tucker initially, and I believe we traded up to – no, we traded back? We traded up. Back. We traded up to do that, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, initially, yes. Yep.
We're gonna change that? We're gonna not do that this time around?
Yeah. There's no need to do that anymore. We got a boatload of picks, and we're not gonna trade up for a guard. No. We
wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
No, we're gonna stick at 23 as our original pick.
All right. So if you have it up in front of you, because it sounds like maybe you do, who is available for us on the board at pick 23?
So. I'm very matter of fact. I probably didn't invite you to the meeting initially where we made this decision already, but there's really only one name to know, and it's on the offensive line. We are going to help Sam Darnold. His name is Christian Darrisaw. That's it. He's the last remaining offensive tackle on the board at this point in time that we consider a cornerstone player on the offensive line that you can build around. And that's who we're going to take. Sometimes you don't want to muddle everything up with a whole bunch of other options. That's the pick. It's Christian Darrisaw. You weren't part of that meeting, so there was probably a lot more discussion, but it was Christian Darrisaw.
Ownership was taking me to lunch. I get it.
Yes.
They were really proud of everything I've been doing for them, so they took me to lunch. You were still in the trenches working. It's fine. I'm trying to look up what we gave up to move up at that point, because I think we also gave up a second-round pick, and I'm trying to figure out what second-round pick it was. Show transactions. There we go. Doesn't have it.
I'll give you some names. I'll give you. So this name would.
We need to know what the pick was, bud. We need to know what the pick was.
So listen, this name will tempt you, and this is why we kept you out of the meeting. But Najee Harris went at 24, so I had to nix that.
No. I'm fine with Christian Darrisaw. We're good there. We don't have to have a discussion there. That is the pick. Gregory Rousseau was on the board, Odafe Owe, but we just drafted Micah Parsons, Travis Etienne, Najee Harris. No. We're not going running back in the first round. That's not a move we would make. Tyson Campbell I really like, but again, I think we need to really help out the offense. I am worried about the second round pick, right? Because we traded up with Minnesota to go initially get Elijah Vera Tucker. We're not doing that now. We're staying back. We're taking Christian Darrisaw, which is what they ended up doing. It
was 366, I believe. So we're still good in the second round. It was a third rounder.
Okay. So 366. Yeah. That was Kellen Mond. They drafted Kellen Mond with that pick. So they lit it on fire. Davis Mills was on the board. Jalen Mayfield, Joseph Oziah, Brady Christensen. but Aleem McNeil was a few picks later. Ooh. See, like I don't think it's recency bias for us to say we all liked Aleem McNeil over those guys.
We are on camera. But this wasn't before the draft, but this was before he like got playing time saying, hey, you guys should have Aleem McNeil in all 22. So that's not at all. But first, to be fair, because we said this during the Cleveland Browns exercise, we're not being Captain Hindsight here. So with the 34th overall pick, we still took Elijah Moore. Okay. We're saying, hey,
I skipped over that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, I'm not. Guy. I am not taking Elijah Moore. I would have never taken Elijah Moore.
Oh,
maybe you would have taken Elijah Moore. Maybe your tail.
We would have argued about it.
We would have. Let's have the argument. Okay. So Elijah Moore is the guy that you would have taken. Landon Dickerson is on the board. Christian Barmore's on the board. I'm trying to think of who else I liked. I like Trevor Mooring too. Walker Little, no. Aaron Banks, no.
And we already took defense, so now we're trying.
I like Sam Cosmi though. I like Sam Cosmi a lot.
We just took Darius out.
Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah. We wouldn't have taken him.
No, because we already took our defensive guy. Now we got to help Sam Darnold. You just yelled at me when you came back from your lunch when we decided on Micah Parsons.
I'm just like I'm thinking I might have liked 4 receivers above Elijah Moore. Like if
don't worry,
again, not being like hindsight, but like even Josh Palmer, I think I liked more than him.
But here's the thing, and we make up for this. This was a very productive meeting without you, Chris. We have big plans in the 3rd round. Okay, we have big plans in the 3rd round because what we have Corey Davis, so we kind of have a big guy we don't trust fully, but he's kind of flashed a little bit. We have no slot. We have no slot. Mm-hmm. Our experience in the slot in any recent history was Jamison Crowder, who was actually pretty decent, but like that's not a thing anymore. Elijah Moore is pretty explosive. He had the like dog urinating celebration in the Egg Bowl. Look, we're wrong in hindsight, but at the time, you could either do that or you could take an oft-injured Landon Dickerson with a concerning injury history and stash him on the inside of the offensive line.
All right. So that's definitely what I would have done. But I think, again, not to be too ridiculous with this exercise, and since this wasn't a pick that moved, Elijah Moore, there was too many people from the legacy team on the Jets and leadership that wanted Elijah Moore. My voice wasn't heard enough. It got outvoted. I was having lunch with the owners anyway. And it takes us to the 3rd round where we are now at pick 66. And you said you have big plans in the 3rd round. So let's hear it. Because just remember, you have to come to me for signatures on any move. So make sure you come.
Oh, is that how this works? Okay. So at pick 3, we're at 366 now. Okay. So who's on the board? We could take Kellen Mond and he could back up Sam Darnold, give him a little competition in case it doesn't work out. Right. But what's still on the board here, who we like as players in our pre-draft process, Aleem McNeil, Osa Odigizua, Paulson Adebo. The issue with all of that, if you haven't noticed, is they're defensive players. I think we're reaching if we take an offensive guy on our board, but there is your boy Josh Palmer. But then in that next tier, there's still some guys we like. And I think we can hold off just enough to not reach for one of these guys at the time of the draft. Might be time to dip into defense and help us out a little bit. But do we really need another defensive tackle alongside Quinnen Williams? I will certainly argue for Aleem McNeil, but we could use Joseph Osai at the time. Osa Odigizua is more of a pass rushing penetrator type, which kind of goes well with Quinnen as well. Paulson Adebo, big corner. We could use one of those.
Yeah, that's where I think the conversation is, because I agree with you, right? We're going to go with who we think is the best player, not necessarily just trying to help out Sam Darnold, especially when I think we reached on Elijah Moore earlier in the draft. So if I'm in the room, I'm saying, okay, Fadakasi is going to be a free agent in a year or two. We're probably going to let him walk. We have Quinnen Williams. Aleem McNeil and Quinnen Williams is a masterpiece on the inside. I love that for us. Odigizua as well, right? Like you could sell me that he may be a better fit alongside Quinnen Williams, because Aleem McNeil and Quinnen Williams may have a little bit of similarities in their game where Odigizua offers something different. I'll leave that to you. You can make that choice, but I'm going with one of those two players.
If you leave it up to me, it's Aleem McNeil. You know that was my man crush from the moment we started looking at him pre-draft process. I think it's Aleem McNeil.
We have Aleem.
And now it starts to feel a little like cheating, but this, you could literally go back to before anybody knew who Aleem McNeil was, and we were on him.
We were on him. Okay. I don't think we should do the 4th round. Let's leave it there for 2021.
Oh, we got one more, Chris.
We have another draft pick.
Oh, yeah.
All right, where are we at?
Chris, we have 386.
Oh, we traded that one as well, right? Didn't we trade?
Yes.
No. Did we have 86 and 90?
We do not have 90. Minnesota got that from Baltimore. We just have 86.
Okay, so we have 86. They went Wyatt Davis.
Yeah, no, we're not going Wyatt Davis. We don't like Wyatt Davis here. But we're going to look at body types here. We got a slot receiver. That was great. Amari Rodgers just went at pick 85 to the Green Bay Packers. We don't care. We just got Elijah Moore. We think Elijah Moore is fantastic, so we're okay with it. We could go Kendrick Green at center, but again, body types, Corey Davis, a little iffy for us. There's a guy staring us in the face here who we think is pretty darn talented, and he can complement our slot receiver here and give us just another weapon for Sam Darnold. And his name is Nico Collins. Okay, we could go straight speed with Anthony Schwartz from Auburn, who's also on the board, but we're not really looking at that. We already have kind of the quickness, yak type guy. Again, we think in Elijah Moore here. And then after that, there's a pretty big teardrop at wide receiver.
I think they
fit.
Hear me out.
Oh, boy.
So we went Elijah Moore. We have Corey Davis, Keelan Cole, whatever. I agree we need another receiver. We also have Connor McGovern at center, who I like, right? We have him there. We don't have AVT. We have Van Rotten. So we actually need a guard. Like, we need an interior offensive lineman. If not, we're going into next year with like a pretty big hole at that position, right? There's a name here that I really liked that I had a first round grade on in this draft. And his name is Quinn Murnez. And
Miners,
whatever his name is. And he went at pick 398, and he is still on the clock. Again, I had him above every single name you just mentioned. Anthony Schwartz, I think I had as like a 6th round pick. I think I had a 6th round grade on him. Definitely not even considering him. So in my mind, it is between Nico Collins and Quinn. And if it was me, just being honest with my board at the time, I had Quinn higher than Nico Collins.
Okay, here's how you convinced me, Chris. Corey Davis almost had 1,000 yards in 2020 in 14 games. I really like this Nico Collins guy, but yeah, we need some help here. Remember, we don't have Elijah Vera Tucker. We did get an outside guy in Darrisaw. Fine, we got our big receiver. We have Elijah Moore. I would still like another one, but you're right. We have to stick to, we have to build up the front here. Fine, Quinn Miners it is. And I don't love Quinn Miners, but you were in that meeting without me, so sounds like the decision was already made.
Well, you also have to remember, like, exactly what you said is accurate, right? Corey Davis had an amazing year that year before that draft, so we have a lot of faith in him. You got to remember, like, his brother died shortly after that, and he kind of went into some, like, mental health stuff, and his career kind of sidetracked at that point. That's kind of unpredictable, right? At the time, it's not something you can be like, I don't think they thought they needed to replace him at that point in time. And I don't think we would have either. So we're going to go with the guard because we don't have a second guard at that point, and we're going to go with our boy Quinn. Anything else you want to do in the 2021 NFL draft?
No, that's fine. It takes Sunday off. Whatever happens Sunday, we'll keep it as is. I think we feel pretty good. We got ourselves a slot receiver that we really like. Pity us. But we also got really good offensive linemen we feel good about. We got Christian Darrisaw at tackle. We're at least giving Darnold a chance. Before, he had no chance, period. It's now no longer completely dysfunctional, but it's not necessarily fantastic just yet, but it's getting better, and we still have ammunition in future years to make this thing better.
Okay, just to read it out, right? We kept Sam Darnold. We have Michael Carter, Keelan Cole, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Ryan Griffin at tight end, Christian Darrisaw, George Fant, Morgan Moses at tackle, Van Roten and Quinn at guard, Connor McGovern at center, Fadukase, Quinn Williams, and Aleem McNeil at defensive interior, Michael Parsons, Bryce Huff, and Franklin Myers at edge, CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, Bryce Hall, Michael Carter at corner, Marcus May, Elijah Ridley at safety. It's already looking a lot better. When we did this last time, I think we do the same thing where the year after, we're not going to be like, oh, we got 10 more wins. I think the next year we assume it was probably close to the same, right? Sam Darnold maybe didn't have the breakout we wanted him to have because the receiving core was still rough, right? Corey Davis regressed. Elijah Moore was a bust. And we're now at the 2022 draft, and we have the 4th overall pick, which was our own pick. We still have that. We do what the Jets did, and we traded Jamal Adams away for the 10th overall pick. We're going to continue to do that. That's going to happen again. So we already have pick 4 and 10. We had pick 26, which we traded up in the second round. We're going to do that again. We'll do that again. We no longer have the Breece Hall pick, which was a second round pick, right? We're okay with that. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then which we did, we accepted the 49ers trade. We also now have pick 29. So let's start with pick 4. And at the time, the New York Jets selected Sauce Gardner. On the board was Kayvon Thibodeau, Akeem Ekwonu, Evan Neal, Drake London, and Charles Cross. Do we still draft Sauce Gardner knowing what he became? Like at the time, again, I think I had him as my cornerback 1. The only quarterback I have given a higher grade since our time doing this is Travis Hunter at corner. So I really liked him, but you may convince me Drake London is important at this point, or maybe even just taking Garrett Wilson at 4, right? What are we thinking here?
I can't cheat the board. Did not have Garrett Wilson above Sauce Gardner. I'm devastated that Derek Stingley just went off the board, who we really liked. We're not in love with Kayvon Thibodeau, and we just got Micah Parsons anyway. Akeem Ekwonu is my man crush. You know that. Really hope he's okay after this weekend's game, by the way. Sounds like he's going to miss a lot of time. Patella tendon injury, that's pretty rough. But am I being honest with myself if I put Akeem Ekwonu in the same tier of prospect as Sauce Gardner? I can't do that. Sauce Gardner is the last. If we make our big board, he's got the E tag. Akeem Ekwonu is fun to watch. I love his game. I love so much about him. I love his attitude. I love the way he approaches just blocking human beings, but he's not an elite football player. I really like Drake London. I did not think he was an elite football prospect at the time. Charles Cross, really good, not elite. If you have the chance at an elite player, same reasoning as we had in just 365 days prior to this, which is why we took Micah Parsons. You have to take elite players when you can get them, and this is one here. I think you got to take Sauce Gardner.
Sauce Gardner is my pick as well for the reasons you stated. He's the only one of that group that I had an elite tag on. So he's going to be the pick at 4, which takes us to 10. And 10, I do think it gets interesting because the Jets did take Garrett Wilson. But again, being honest with myself, I did have a higher grade on Chris Olave than I did Garrett Wilson. Jamison Williams on the board, I did not. Jordan Davis, Kyle Hamilton, Kenyon Green, Jahan Dotson. I think at this point, right, we had the down season with Corey Davis, so I think we are pretty locked in at receiver. I think the question, again, because I had a higher grade on Chris Olave, I don't know how you felt at the time between those two players, but I think it is between Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave.
You have this phrase, Chris, when you feel very strongly about something, what do you do? 1,000 push-ups.
1,000 push-ups, dude.
Correct. I didn't feel 1,000 push-ups strongly one way or the other about one being above the other. Both Ohio State receivers, really talented. I probably also would have given the edge to Chris Olave at the time, but they're in the same tier for me. That one comes down to pre-draft interviews and just gut feel or whatever else. Not even flavor of ice cream, because those guys are both like kind of inside-out players that can do a lot for you. I probably go Olave as well, but that's either or. So if you feel strongly about one over the other, we could do Chris Olave over Garrett Wilson. I don't even think in hindsight that changes the projection pretty much. Just maybe he doesn't get hit in the head quite as often. So I think it's fair to get Olave here.
Yeah, I think we're taking Olave. That's going to be the pick. And it takes us to 26, right? So again, we have 26 and 29 at this point. At 26, the Jets took Jermaine Johnson. Devin Lloyd was still on the board, Devontae Wyatt, Cole Strange, George Karlaftis, Daxton Hill, Lewis Cine, Logan Hall, Christian Watson, Roger McCreary. Again, we have 2 picks kind of in this tier here. But at 26, with Micah Parsons being on our team, are we still taking Jermaine Johnson?
Who's the other guy? Do we still have Franklin Myers heading into this year? I think we might. I think we might, because the offensive board is pretty wiped out. The offensive board is pretty wiped out. We already just took a receiver, so Christian Watson is not really a consideration here. We could double up, but that's a bit overkill. And then after that, I mean, this is hindsight talking, but the next tier is someone like Breece Hall. We're not going to reach for a running back at this point in the draft. It's a bunch of defensive players at the top of the board here. I'm not interested in Wan'Dale Robinson. We have Elijah Moore at this point. While we're disappointed, maybe he's a rookie who bounces back. We don't really need that type of player archetype. The board is littered with defensive players here. We want a tandem. I could maybe listen to Devin Lloyd, liked his game a lot. But I think it comes down to those 2 guys, Jermaine Johnson or Devin Lloyd. We can either compliment Micah Parsons on the pass rush here or fortify the second level of the spine of the defense with Devin Lloyd. I'm good with either one. They're both in that same tier for me. But position value might dictate Jermaine Johnson.
I think it's Jermaine Johnson just because we have Quincy Williams and we're liking him, right? And we know that he's a part of this team. His brother's here. Like, we want to keep him happy. Devin Lloyd, again, it's a linebacker. It's what's that?
Like a Hallmark movie storyline. That's not why we're keeping a guy here. But,
if it keeps Quinnen happy, I think we do, right? I think we do. So Jermaine Johnson is going to be my pick, which takes us to 29. And at 29, again, a lot of the same people are on the board. Cole Strange, George Karlaftis, Daxton Hill, Lewis Cine, Logan Hall, Christian Watson, Breece Hall, Roger McCreary. To me, there's kind of a 2-person debate here, right? Like, obviously, we're not going to go Cole Strange. We have edge now. We don't need another edge, so we're not going George Karlaftis. There's a conversation to be had about going DB with like Daxton Hill or Lewis Cine, but we already just went Sauce Gardner. We talked about needing that bigger body type, last year, but we thought we had Corey Davis. Now we know we don't have Corey Davis. Can I convince you that Christian Watson is the right choice?
You could convince me of Christian Watson. I'm also looking pretty darn hard at one of those names, which is Daxton Hill, just because he's kind of a super athletic safety with a ton of upside. And next to Marcus May, we have nothing really. Elijah Riley's that's not really making a difference there. We do have now Sauce Gardner in front of them at corner, so we could kind of put another building block into a really, really strong secondary unit behind what's going to be emerging as a top pass rush behind a defensive front consisting of Micah Parsons and Quinnen Williams. So we could lean into a defensive identity here and go athletic on the back end here. But you could convince me of Christian Watson because, again, sometimes you got to do a little bit of overkill to protect or support your quarterback here. And Elijah Moore, okay, it wasn't great. Still our slot guy, but maybe we still have some hope for him. Corey Davis kind of falling off. We got one guy on the outside, but do we get another and just completely lean into it and not have to worry about it? I think it's between those 2 names, Christian Watson and Daxton Hill for me. It's one of those 2, and I can be swayed if you're willing to do the push-ups.
We finished fourth from last place this year after going with Sam Darnold. Do you know what that means to me? Sam Darnold still didn't take off the way that we needed him to in his year back with us, right? We made that decision. Everybody, ESPN, all the news outlets are saying, should the Jets have drafted Zach Wilson at 2 overall and traded Sam Darnold? Those conversations are still going on, right? We want to give Sam Darnold every single opportunity to prove them wrong. Listen, our defense, Quinnen Williams, Aleem McNeil, Micah Parsons, Jermaine Johnson, like our secondary, I feel like if you went out there, you should be getting 6 picks a year, all right?
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I said
that would have happened either way.
I said it, buddy. Christian Watson will help elevate Sam Darnold in this offense. And I think he complements Elijah Moore and Chris Olave a lot. And he adds a different element. My vote, 1,000 push-ups, definitely was Christian Watson at the time.
Fine. All right, Christian Watson it is. I'm on board Christian Watson. Good deep threat.
Really good deep threat, right? We have the most injured receiving core in the NFL with Chris Olave and Christian Watson. But don't worry about that. All right. I feel like that kind of rounds up our 2022 draft. Was there anything else you wanted to do there? Because I think we don't have the Breece Hall pick because we didn't trade away Sam Darnold, right? So we didn't get that pick in return. But if there's anything else you wanted to do here that you find interesting.
Hey man, I think we can maybe rock with this. I'm going to look at my draft board here to see if there's anybody we really should target pretty hard. I'm going to say not. We're okay with this. I think we move on to the next.
Okay. So just to kind of recap, right? So our draft in 2022 was Sauce Gardner at 4, Chris Olave at 10, Jermaine Johnson at 26, and Christian Watson at 29. That is a heck of a haul, man. But we're now going into 2023, and this is where people forget that there was another kind of outcome from the Zach Wilson draft pick that would not have happened if we kept Sam Darnold, okay? So in 2023, the Jets had to trade for Aaron Rodgers from the Packers, which, again, wouldn't have happened. They traded away pick 13, got pick 15 back from the Packers, so they only moved 2 picks there. But they also traded away their second-round pick, which they would be getting back. So we moved from pick 15 to 13, and we get back our second-round pick in 2023. We also now have the 49ers pick in 2023, which ended up being pick 30. So we're going to be on the clock at 13, 30, and then we also get our second-round pick back that we traded away, and I believe we actually have another one as well. So we're going to start the 2023 draft
Chris,
with pick.
You don't think a defense with Ali McNeil, Quinnen Williams, and Micah Parsons, and Sauce Gardner, and Marcus May, and me at the corner on the other side isn't winning 8 games, 9 games?
That's a great point. You're right. I forgot.
I think we're picking 17th or 18th at this point. I think to be fair, Micah Parsons now year 2 is a certified game breaker. And he's next to Quinnen Williams, who's next to Ali McNeil, who's in front of Sauce Gardner, who's in front of Marcus May and Daxton Hill. I think defense alone. I think we have a top 6, 5, 4 defense in the NFL. And Sam Darnold at this point now, he's creeping back towards league average. All right. We don't have the quarterback whisperer in Minnesota that unlocks him, to be a full-on top 10 QB, but he's league average now because he's got the weapons and he's kind of coming out of his shell after being shellacked for like his first 4 years in the NFL. I think we win 9 games. I think that puts us at 18. I think we just missed the playoffs. I think we're at 18th, 19th, somewhere around there.
You're totally right. And I apologize because I did say that earlier, right? Like year 2, we should say the record gets impacted. I don't think you want me picking 18th in this draft because Jack Campbell went 18th. So why don't we go 19th? We're going to finish 19th. Okay. That's 19th. Where we're going to finish. Jack Campbell's not in the conversation. So we have pick 19, which I'm fine with, right? Still pretty good. And on the clock at pick 19 now was Kalijah Kancey was the actual pick. Jackson Smith-Njigba went the pick after that. Quentin Johnston went right after him. Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. So like a big receiver run. Deontay Banks went to the Giants. Dalton Kincaid at tight end. Mozzie Smith to Dallas. Anton Harrison on the offensive line. Miles Murphy, Brian Bresee at defensive line. Nolan Smith. I'm just trying to think of guys we like. Joey Porter Jr. went 32nd overall. Sam Laporta, Michael Mayer, Steve Avila, Bergeron. This was a really good draft. I'm going to be honest, man. There's a lot of guys to choose from here. Considering how good our defensive front is, I kind of think we don't go defensive front. I also am like looking, okay, we drafted Chris Olave and Christian Watson. I know there's kind of like this is the sweet spot for receiver in this draft, but I almost feel like maybe we wouldn't do that either, which gives me the idea that potentially we could be moving back.
Ooh, who's our starting tight end?
Our starting tight end at the time was Ryan Griffin, which I completely understand, but like with the amount of tight ends that were available here, like, did you really feel at the time that Dalton Kincaid was here and that Michael Mayer and Sam Laporta were down here? Because I'm with you at tight end. I just don't know if we need to take one at pick 19.
We don't need to take one at pick 19. We don't need to take one at pick 19. We don't need to take one at pick 19.
We don't need to take one at pick 19.
All right, so who's trading up for a wide receiver here?
I think very easily.
You're the guy in control.
I said that super confidently without an answer in my mind.
Exactly. That's fantastic. We're waiting for the phone to ring. This is what happens here. We're waiting for the phone to ring.
Well, just remember, New Orleans didn't get Chris Olave last draft. So, I mean, potentially, but they needed defense bad. So maybe not them. Would Seattle want to trade up one spot? Would Minnesota want to trade from 23 to 19 to get Smith and Jigba before Seattle? I mean, I think there's a realistic scenario where we can move back like 4 spots or something like that and just have like a 3rd round pick. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. I don't think anybody, like, I don't think Seattle's trading up again from like the 2nd round. I don't think we want to move that far back anyway. Could you convince me that Tennessee went Will Levis? I don't think they would go wide receiver. I don't know.
You can convince me that New Orleans, Brian Bresee was hurt. They might not have had Mozzie Smith that high. They might take Addison in a world where they don't have Olave.
Yeah, but do they get Garrett Wilson if we go Olave?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we're stuck, Chris. We're stuck.
We're stuck at 19?
We're stuck at 19, and now the clock is winding down. The little ticker is making that little beeping sound, you know?
Yeah, I'm waiting at my desk for somebody to hand me the paper to sign, and nobody's handing it, and I'm getting nervous.
All right.
I'm okay going tight end at 19 if we have to. But just, again, being honest, I had Michael Mayer as my tight end 1. Do you really want to make that happen right now?
You're just signing the paper. I'm handing you the name. And my tight end 1 was, I think, Darnell Washington. People have gotten in my ear and convinced me otherwise. The next guy up at that position for me was Sam Laporta. And
really,
we have intel that the Cowboys are likely to decide between Mozzie Smith, Matt Bergeron, and Sam Laporta. So as far as I'm concerned, this is not out of bounds to take Sam Laporta at this spot. Is it a little early? Maybe, but in the interest of supporting your quarterback, this might be the move to do. And again, just another weapon, complements who we got on the outside. We've got a deep threat. We've got a slot guy that we're a little bit iffy about, but we like his potential. And then we kind of have an inside-out, do-everything Olave. Laporta's perfect to complement those guys. I think that's the pick here.
Yeah, and I like it because, we got Christian Darrisaw, we got our boy Quinn at guard, but Sam Darnold might have still been struggling at this time, right? He didn't put it all together yet, and it's really about buying him more time. And as great of a receiving weapon as Sam Laporta is, he's also an incredible blocking weapon, and that's what convinced us to go him over Dalton Kincaid. So I'm okay with that. If you had him as your tight end 2, I think I had him as tight end 4 in this draft. So, like, again, I'm signing the paper going, what the hell are these guys doing? But I trust my people, right? That's what good leadership does. And I sign off on the drafting of Sam Laporta. Okay, so that was our pick at 19. We are now at 30. Again, Brian Bresee was that pick. Nolan Smith is on the board. FAU is on the board. Joey Porter Jr. The tight ends again. Steve Avila. Bergeron. There's a lot of good names here. Again, tight end might be off the board for us then. We also have pick 43. And we have pick, trying to find the other one, 42. We have pick 42 and 43 as well. So I have a name in mind, but I'm gonna let you lead off the conversation.
All right, Chris, can you read off our offensive line? Can you read off the offensive line in front of Sam Darnold? We feel very good about the weapons on the outside, and now the tight end security blanket. Who's blocking for our franchise quarterback, the guy that we are desperately trying to fix after breaking him for 4 years?
Yeah, it's a little bit wonky because some guys might have left for free agency at the time. So I'm going to tell you the names I know for sure that we have. But we have Darrisaw, Quinn Miners.
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 Yes. You just fuse him and Quinn Ewers together. Just form
That's
one.
What's happening. That is
guard who can throw.
Quinn Miners. So Quinn Miners, Christian Darrisaw. Do we still have Connor McGovern? Maybe. Do we still have Van Rotten? Maybe. Do we still have Morgan Moses? Maybe. So I'm thinking it's Darrisaw, Moses, Miners, McGovern, and Rotten.
Yeah, I think we lost McGovern to free agency here, and that's okay because Quinn Miners can play center, and he has now gotten his feet wet in the NFL. So I think we can go ahead, make that move. With the benefit of hindsight, he's phenomenal there, but at the time, he could always play center. I think we move him to center, so now we have a vet center, quote-unquote vet. And the decision now comes between Matt Bergeron or Steve Avila. On my board, I had Matt Bergeron higher at guard.
So I'm going to challenge you.
I had him as a borderline first round pick here, and I know we have another pick and a few picks, so I could be moved off of this position.
We have two more picks.
Correct.
We have two more picks, and there's a guy that we really like for center that might be coming up. And could I convince you that a good complement to Sauce Gardner would be Joey Porter Jr., who I believe this year in the NFL led up the least amount of receiving yards to opposing receivers?
You're going to ask me if I could be convinced if Joey Porter Jr., cornerback, Penn State, can be a good complement to Sauce Gardner?
I'm just saying, I think offensive linemen you can get in the second round. I don't know if you could get a starting corner late in the second round.
I'm just letting you know this would be the first ever Penn State cornerback drafted in the first round ever. You want to be the one to take that plunge.
Well, that's after you, right? Because you were playing corner for us last year.
Maybe we took you. You're right.
Because you're 40 years old now, so we took you in the 1982 draft in the first round. Yes. So Joey Porter Jr. would be the second.
Yeah, and I'm just as tall as Aaron Glenn, so that's why I stuck around. You can convince me. Fine. We still have some linemen on the board that we like. We have multiple linemen on the board that we like. We do not have that many defensive backs that we like that are available. I'm fine with it, and I'm biased, so you've won my vote.
I think that is the realistic thing that we would have done at the time because I do believe that he would be the highest or second highest DB on our board. The other highest, I think we're going to get to in a minute, and we're going to have a conversation about. But now we are at 42 and 43. We have back-to-back picks. We can take two players in a row here. Luke Musgrave was the pick for the Packers at tight end at 42, but the New York Jets at 43 took Joe Tittman, offensive lineman, at pick 43. A couple other guys that I'll mention here, right? Brian Branch was pick 45, safety for the Lions, okay? He was a top 15 graded player for me in that draft. Just putting that out there, right? The Packers took Jaden Reed at 50. A couple other names. Cody Mauch went to Tampa at 48, another guy I like. Rashee Rice went. Just trying to throw out names that I know that we both thought were good players. But I think if we say to ourselves, right, we still feel like there's holes on the offensive line, that should be priority one. And the conversation then comes down to Joe Tittman or Cody Mauch. I think last episode when we did the Browns one, we gave the Browns Cody Mauch for that purpose only. Maybe these parallel universes, these wormholes were connected some way. Maybe we can't give the Jets Cody Mauch as well. Maybe we give them Joe Tittman still.
Yeah, someone sniped Avila from us after we took Porter, and that's okay because 45 minutes ago we were talking about maybe moving Miners to center, and now we have our center. I'm cool with that. So, yeah, Joe Tittman. Let's make it happen.
We have Joe Tittman, and then with our second pick, to me, it's a no-brainer because we don't like our safeties at this time, right? We didn't end up drafting one last year. Marcus Mays on another.
We got Daxton Hill.
We did not get Daxton Hill. I vetoed Daxton Hill and we got Christian Watson.
You're right.
Instead.
You're right.
And Brian Branch is on the board, who we both had first-round grades on. Is there any reason we would not take Brian Branch?
Oh, no, there is not. I really like Keon White, but he's an older prospect, so I don't love him. We like Keanu Benton.
We also have Micah Parsons and and Jermaine Johnson. Yeah.
Oh, but I love stacking them. That's whatever.
Yeah.
I like Zach Charbonnet, but it's a running back, so you can move me off of that position very easily. We don't like Osiris Torrance if we wanted to really double up here.
Neither of us liked him.
I think that's the pick. I think Brian Branch is the pick. Nice, versatile piece, and that helps because our corners are both gigantic. Brian Branch, a little more versatile inside and out, whereas our corners might be more prototype outside guys. We're really fitting the puzzle pieces together on defense incredibly well here. That's the pick.
Okay. So we take Brian Branch at safety, and now all of the picks associated with the Zach Wilson pick have been drafted. We have our new team, but we still have 2 drafts kind of that may have been impacted by this. Do we need to go through 24 and 25? Do you want to do that? Do it quick.
What does our depth chart look like right now? Because I think right now we're in the playoffs and the draft. All of a sudden we have to wait a really long time at night. So let's hear this. I think Sam Darnold.
After 2023, we have a sick team. Okay, so Sam Darnold is our quarterback. Let me just fresh start, right? For those that just tuned in. If the New York Jets did not draft Zach Wilson and instead they kept Sam Darnold, what could have been possible to them? Okay, after doing 3 drafts of Sam Darnold being the quarterback, revising this Jets roster, we have Sam Darnold at quarterback. At running back, we have nobody. We didn't figure it out yet. We're going to have to figure it out, Ray. At receiver, we have Chris Olave, Christian Watson, and Elijah Moore. At tight end, we have Sam Laporta. And at tackle, we have Christian Darrisaw. Nobody else. We need to figure that out too. At guard, we have Quinn Miners. And at center, we have Joe Tippmann. We're still missing a couple bodies here, buddy. We got to figure out some stuff. But on the defensive side of the ball, we have Quinnen Williams and Aleem McNeil. At edge, we have Micah Parsons and Jermaine Johnson. At linebacker, we still have Quincy Williams and Jermaine Sherwood. At cornerback, we have Sauce Gardner and Joey Porter Jr. And at safety, we have Brian Branch and Marcus May. Defensive side of the ball, I don't think there's a defense in existence that's been as good as this one. But on offense, I still think there are some holes that probably need to be filled. One, we don't have an active running back. So like you transition from cornerback to running back. I think our receiver room, while we like the guys we have, it's injured all the time. We're missing another tackle, right? And we only have half of a guard. So we do need to start figuring some stuff out here that may make sense.
And that's because we're not going in free agency. Like we're doing just draft, let alone vets. Right. Like this is how close we are with just the draft picks that we would have gotten from not trading from trading the Zach Wilson pick and keeping Sam Darnold. 3 players we need, really? 3, 4? Over the course of 3 free agency periods?
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, guys. You got to – when someone hands you a lottery ticket, you got to take it. And
so are we saying, Ray, that in 2023, the Super Bowl winner was the New York Jets?
No, but they made the playoffs.
Oh, come on. We're
picking like 24th, 25th now because we have no running game, and Sam Darnold is at his best when he's in play action. And now there's some analytical guys out there saying the running game success doesn't matter with play action. It's still just as effective. It is just as effective up and until you need to actually run the football to support the passing game that you are building off of play action. I don't think Sam Darnold, as good as he is, can overcome that, especially just yet. Although the defense may keep us in the game and all that. That's why we win a playoff game, because of that defense and because Darnold is now kind of starting to hit his stride. But the holes, remember, we're in a conference with Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen here in our division. Josh Allen's in our division. So we got to be great.
We have the 1985's Bears defense, buddy. Like, come on.
Yeah, you're right. But, Chris Jones, kind of got in Darnold's face a little bit. It's just we were close, but Mahomes did his thing again. We're picking 25th. We're picking 25th.
All right. If we're picking 25th, we're picking 25th. Do you want to hear who is available at pick 25 in the 2024 NFL draft?
Yeah, let's do it. We're getting so close, by the way. We are getting so close.
And I think there's some guys we definitely would have taken here. So Jordan Morgan was the actual pick to the Packers at 25, but the next pick was Graham Barton to Tampa Bay, who's honestly struggled a bit in his NFL career. Xavier Worthy went next, who is very interesting to me at this point. Tyler Guyton was after that at tackle, right? Interesting prospect there. Nate Wiggins, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey. Again, we took Ladd for the Browns, so maybe we don't do that here. Johnny Newton at defensive interior, Tavondre Sweat. Let me just take a quick look at who else would have been available on the offensive line. Jackson Powers Johnson, Zach Frazier. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh. So again, Graham Barton was probably I know I had Jackson Powers Johnson above Graham Barton, but I'm not sure what you thought of that at the time. So I'm open to having a conversation.
No, we both did. The issue with Jackson Powers Johnson was off the field and some injuries.
Yep.
But strictly player wise, he was the top interior lineman on my board here. So we would have an interior offensive line of Quinn Miners, Joe Tippmann, and Jackson Powers Johnson in front of Sam Darnold. It's going to be hard to move me off of that position. I love, slot receiver. I know we need one now because at this point we figured out Elijah Moore is a bust. We do kind of need a tackle. Jordan Morgan's a bit of an inside-out player. Tyler Guyton was more of a natural right tackle in college, but he didn't play enough snaps there to really make a difference. To me, I think the decision is whether we want to fortify the spine of our offensive line on the interior or get the tackle. To me, we go best player available, and that to me is Jackson Powers Johnson over someone like Tyler Guyton. We could sign a right tackle in free agency if we don't like what we have coming out of this damn thing. Like I'm cool with that. But right in front of his face, Sam Darnold, I think you gotta protect the spine.
I'm in agreement there. And I forgot that we also gave the Packers our second round pick in 2024. So we do have a second round pick in 2024. At the time, it ended up being pick 45 where they took Edgerrin Cooper, but we're going to be picking a bit later as we kind of discussed. So where did we pick? We picked at 25, we said.
Yeah, so we're at 57. We're at 57.
57, which was Chris Braswell for Tampa Bay. Javon Bullard went next, but we drafted Brian Branch the year before, so maybe we don't do that. Blake Fisher could be an interesting tackle prospect to move around a bit, right? Kingsley Sumaitia was available. Roger Rosengarten. Cole Bishop at safety again. Some pretty interesting safety prospects. It's almost too enticing not to go safety, but we also don't have a running back. Trey Benson's available at this point. I know we both liked him as a prospect.
But we have our third round pick, right?
I'm sure we do.
Yeah, I think position value comes into effect here, and I think you got to go offensive tackle because I think there's maybe only one or two left that we like or that intrigue us. And to me, that's I think we have to go in that direction here. I think that's Blake Fisher. I didn't love him, but I like him. I think he's a smooth player.
Yeah.
We have a great interior that would be playing along his left if he's at the right side at right tackle here. I think we have the players to bring him along at right tackle. I think that's the pick.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I don't love maybe how young our offensive line is just because, like, you want some veterans there. Like you said, maybe we go into free agency. We're not doing that right now, but maybe we would have brought a vet like a Morgan Moses back and kept him around. But Blake Fisher, I agree. I liked him too because I thought he had positional flexibility at tackle. It could play either side really, really well. I'm totally fine with that being the pick here. So then we go into the third round, and we actually have the first pick of the third round, where we took at the time Malachi Corley. In this situation, we didn't get to dump him to the Browns, and we still have pick 65, and Trey Benson did go pick 66. Obviously, there's a couple other guys there, but Marshawn Lloyd was a running back that went there. Junior Colson, Trevin Wallace at linebacker. Cooper Beebe was available. Still my freaking guy.
Yeah, no hindsight though. No hindsight. We didn't know.
He was my guy.
I know he was, but I mean, we just drafted another guy. We can't double up on center. Now we
can't go Jackson Powers Johnson, Joe Tippmann, Quinn Miners, and Cooper Beebe. I guess.
I mean, I would.
Adisa Isaac was available if we wanted to get like another edge in there.
So here's the thing here, Chris, right? We need a running game. We need a running back. We need a young running back. But the thing about young running backs is that they have, mileage left over, right? They don't have too much mileage. They're not broken down. So to me, that eliminates guys with injury history. And I'm going to extend that a little bit because you mentioned the name Adisa Isaac. I loved Adisa Isaac. Before his Achilles injury in college at Penn State, he was fixing to be a 3 years and out first round type of player. He was better than Odafe Owe in every way. He was trending in that direction. Unfortunately, before the COVID season, injured his Achilles, and he still became a 4th round pick, but he was never that same. I wish people could have experienced young Adisa Isaac at Penn State. He was the one who was sort of like, oh, this will be the next guy after Micah. And the injury kind of took a bit of that away from him, but he's a solid pro. But on draft day, I'm trying to avoid Achilles. I'm trying to avoid ACLs. I'm trying to avoid, that stuff. Liz Franks, I'm avoiding that. So Trey Benson, major knee injury prior. I'm out on Trey Benson. I'm not going to take a pass rusher with a big injury here. Blake Corum, not sure he kind of is the prototype, number one guy we're looking for. Marshawn Lloyd also had an ACL history as well. So there's one name that it might be a little bit early on, but on our board, once we remove our medical flags that we like draftable on day 2, is Bucky Irving. Why not Bucky Irving at this point?
I
can't come back at me with an injured player. You can't come back at me with an injured player.
I'm trying to think because I'm trying to remember what Jalen Wright's history was. If there was injuries there,
There wasn't. That would be the other name.
Jalen Wright was by far my number one running back of this class. Tyron Tracy, I also really liked. So I think there's an argument for both of those guys. But again, if we're going injury history is important, going with the best available guy, I think Jalen Wright was also kind of young. I think I definitely would have been all over Jalen Wright.
I was all over Jalen Wright too. I think I might have had him higher, to be honest. Yeah. The only concern with him is for our situation, we don't have a bell cow. We don't have a Javonte Williams, 230 pounds that is going to slam into the defense. And Jalen Wright was always sort of the complementary profile. He was not the number one bell cow guy. And Bucky Irving, to an extent, wasn't either, but he was a little bit more in that mold than the others. And that's that might put him over the top, but I could be, without hindsight, swayed to get the 20-year-old, super fast, get him in space, speed in space. He's not the focal point of the defense, right? So he will take advantage of the extra space in the box, those lighter boxes. I could be convinced of Jalen Wright pre-hindsight as well, because that's an option.
That's what I think we do, right? He was number one on my board. I think he was probably number 1 or 2 on yours. He's young. He's exactly what we would have wanted. I understand, right? He probably needs a compliment next to him. You can get those guys later. When did Zach Charbonnet get drafted, right? When do guys like that typically get drafted? Tyler Algier, right? They go 3rd round, 4th round most times. And I'm fine doubling up on a 2nd round running back with a 4th round a bit later. I think that's how you win. You win those kind of games, right? You do that, right? You double up later on with guys that complement each other well. Jalen Wright is definitely my pick here. Trying to look to see if we have anything else that we want to consider in this draft, or if we want to just fast forward simulate another season and go to 2025 and wrap this thing up. What are you thinking?
I think we do the Madden sim, right? Sim through the rest of the offseason.
Madden sim. Love it.
And now we're drafting 28th.
And now we still didn't pull it out. Okay. We're drafted 28th because Morgan Moses at tackle with Blake Fisher turned out to be a liability. I don't know what else could have possibly gone wrong for this team because it's so great. The running back, Jalen Wright, was too small. I don't know. Okay,
we need another guy.
We're picking a 28. Fine. That was Tyleik Williams this year to Detroit. Washington got Josh Connerly the pick after that. We have Maxwell Hairston with Buffalo, Jahad Campbell with Philly, Josh Simmons at Kansas City, which we did to Cleveland, so we can't double up. Carson Swessinger, Jaden Higgins, Nick Emanwari, Quinshon Judkins, Sovanaiya, Travion Henderson, Luther Burden, Tyler Shook, TJ Sanders, Mason Taylor. Tackle got real thin. Arianti Ursary. I mean,
have we given up? Have we given up on Blake Fisher, or he just wasn't good as a rookie?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think we can stick it out with Blake Fisher and give him another year, and we can try to fill another hole or just kind of make this team a little bit better. I'm open to it.
I mean, you said the name. You said it. You said it. It's Jihad Campbell.
It's okay. Listen, man, I don't know what you have under the hat.
Jihad Campbell. It's got to be Jihad Campbell. He's the best player on the board that the NFL let the Eagles draft again. He's the best player on the board right now.
You talked about it earlier, man. E-tags. I had an E-tag on Jihad Campbell. I had him as a top 10 player in this draft with a all-pro kind of tag associated to his name. So I am totally fine with going Jihad Campbell at pick 28. If we do that and we go into the second round now and we end up at pick, 61 to round this thing out?
Yep.
Trey Amos on the board, Shamar Turner, Omar Norman Lott, Makuba we did for the Browns, can't do it again. Darius Alexander, Harold Fannin could be interesting as a compliment to Sam Laporta, to be honest. Like if we want to really do that, that would be fun. Kyle Williams, Isaac Tesla, Landon Jackson. I'm trying to think what else here, but that's I
really
love
our options here, to be honest.
Don't love our options, but I don't hate them either because our lineup's looking pretty darn good, dude.
Did anybody trade for a running back? No, right? Nobody's traded for a running back.
No.
Okay.
I mean, Caleb Johnson's on the board.
You liked Caleb Johnson. That's your boy.
You liked Caleb Johnson more than me. It is in the recording. You have him higher than I did. And honestly, I just think that's a Steelers thing, man. They just don't like playing young players. Packers used to not either. And guess who really doesn't like young players? Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. And we don't have to deal with that anymore. RJ Harvey or your boy over here, Caleb Johnson.
Is RJ Harvey gone?
Is he gone?
RJ Harvey's gone.
Yeah, he just went at pick 60. Oh my gosh, we got sniped.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, so we got sniped. We reach a little bit, but we have the luxury of the reach because we don't really need anything else on this roster if we're sticking at right tackle with Blake Fisher. Fine, put it in. I don't love it. It's kind of like having cold pizza, but whatever. We need it. And he's a good compliment to Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright's kind of the home run guy. Johnson's kind of the zone, kind of chain moving type of guy. You're right. This is how we win. Adam Sandler, GIF, and Uncut Gems. Yes.
Can I read you the final 2025 roster for the New York Jets?
Oh, man. I can't wait.
If the New York Jets did not trade away Sam Darnold and draft Zach Wilson, and instead they accepted the trade that awarded them 3 first-round picks from the San Francisco 49ers, this is what their roster would have looked like. At quarterback, Sam Darnold is in his prime at this point, rocking and rolling for the New York Jets. At running back, we have Jalen Wright and Caleb Johnson, a young duo that offer speed and power for the New York Jets. At receiver, we have Chris Olave, Christian Watson, and Elijah Moore, who struggled early but kind of figured it out, not having to be the guy for this team, okay? At tight end, we have Sam Laporta. At tackle, Christian Darrisaw, Blake Fisher. At guard, Quinn Miners, Jackson Powers Johnson. And at center, Joe Tippmann. Just an absolutely stud-loaded young offensive line for the future of the New York Jets. Looks different than the one they have today, but is it less effective? We'll see. Quinnen Williams and Aleem McNeil at defensive interior. At edge, we have Micah Parsons and Jermaine Johnson. At linebacker, Quincy Williams and Jihad Campbell. Cornerback, Sauce Gardner and Joey Porter Jr. Just tall, athletic, don't let up yards. Who are they throwing to? Brian Branch is at safety with still Marcus May decided to extend his career. He's still here. We didn't get a second safety. Sorry, buddy. Maybe that's something we should have looked at. I am excited about this Jets defense. And in 2025, the New York Jets are Super Bowl champions, Ray.
Lamar Jackson didn't make the playoffs. Pat Mahomes didn't make the playoffs.
Yes.
The only juggernaut they have to get through is Josh Allen. They have to slay one
and this is the year
dragon.
To do it.
Yes. This is the year to do it. While he still doesn't have great receivers, Dalton Kincaid didn't turn into an elite weapon. This is the year for the New York Jets. In this universe, they meet the Cleveland Browns in the AFC Championship game. Jets versus Browns. If this is your first time listening to this show, please go watch the episode and exercise we did about the Cleveland Browns not trading for and signing Deshaun Watson. That'll make a lot more sense after you listen to that. But you're right. This would be the year. All of the Dragons of the last 10 plus years, only Josh Allen remains in the playoff hunt in 2025. This would have been the year for the Jets to put it all together and make a Super Bowl run after a half century more, finally getting those fans out of despair. I think we did it. And we did it organically through the draft, minimizing hindsight with what was available to us. Probably had a lot of money to splurge on too. We could really have added to this. But
one other thing to think about, which maybe we didn't, is this offseason, the New York Jets hired Aaron Glenn to be their head coach. But with the roster that we constructed, would Ben Johnson be that much more enticed to coach the New York Jets, right? It impacts everything when you draft well. But everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Please give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X at all22_PFF, and give us a review wherever you watch or listen to your podcasts. Have a great rest of your day.
Go.